Set in the 22nd century, the world is grappling with the aftermath of global warming. The polar ice caps melted, flooding coastal cities, killing off most of the world's population. In response to these crises, robotic technology, also known as mecha, has been created to keep humanity alive. The movie unfolds in the offices of a company called Cybertronics, where the owner, Professor Alan Hobby, wants to push mecha to make something that can feel, see, and even show love. Gathered before him is a captivated audience of scientists and engineers, their eyes fixed on a figure cloaked in a white sheet. Professor Hobby quickly removes the sheet, unveiling a breathtaking sight, Sheila, an enchanting mecha designed to embody the essence of emotions. As the room erupts in gasps of awe, the revelation of Sheila's lifelike features and her ability to express compassion sends a ripple of wonder through the people. Hobby explains that this is just a glimpse into the potential of these machines. 2 years later, we are introduced to Monica and Henry Swinton. Their son Martin is preserved in a cryostatic state while they search for a cure for his crippling illness. As a result of the separation of her son, Monica has not been able to cope very well emotionally with the situation. To alleviate his wife's pain, Henry and a co-worker at Cybertronics participate in a test to determine whether or not they can act as a family to the new and improved Cybertronics mecha, David. This new machine is the product of Professor Hobby's tireless efforts to develop a robot with the capacity to love. Henry brings David back home and tells Monica that if they decide to keep him, she needs to imprint herself on him. He also mentions that if she ever decided she didn't want David, she would have to send him back to Cybertronics to be destroyed. Monica, still grappling with the void left by her comatose son Martin, can't help but feel uneasy as she gazes into the unblinking eyes of David. She is angry and frustrated because she believes that her husband is making an effort to replace their real son. Yet she can't help but question if David can truly replace the warmth and depth of human connection. Despite this, Monica makes an effort to become accustomed to David. Still hesitant and uncomfortable, Monica starts the process by reading a list of words that activate David's emotional stimulation. As soon as she completes the imprinting process, David refers to her as Mommy and starts acting like a real child. She then gives her new son a robotic teddy bear named Teddy, which once belonged to Martin. Some time passes, and everything seems to be going well for the Swintons until a new cure restores Martin's health. Martin returns home and learns about his new brother, but Martin hates David. He sees him as a super toy or a doll rather than a human. Martin then asks their mother to read them Pinocchio to spite David, but his plan backfires. David gets fascinated by the story in which the wooden puppet transforms into a real boy thanks to the Blue Fairy. Then, Martin makes several attempts to get rid of David. He deceives David into eating spinach, which makes him malfunction and require cleaning. Another time, Martin instructs David to trim some of Monica's hair while she sleeps. But the incident leads Henry to believe that David was attempting to kill his wife. Even Martin's friends are plotting against David. One of Martin's friends decides to test David at his birthday party to see if he can feel pain. David is thrown into the pool and cries out for help. He then grabs Martin as the test continues, looking like David was trying to drown Martin. Henry and Monica are horrified, and David is no longer considered safe. Henry tells Monica to send him back to be destroyed. Monica comes up with a plan to trick David into going to Cybertronics under the guise of going on a picnic. When the time comes to send David to be destroyed, she can't bring herself to do it. So she abandons him in a distant forest. David, confused, wonders why he's being made to leave his mother and feels scared and confused. Some time passes and David slowly comes to the realization that the reason he was abandoned was that he is not real like Martin is. He then sets his mind on finding the Blue Fairy, just like in the story of Pinocchio, so she can turn him real and get back to his mother. As he travels through the forest, he encounters several broken, outdated, and abandoned mechas, looking through the Cybertronics junk heaps for spare parts to fix themselves. One of them is Gigolo Joe, an unwanted mecha turned prostitute. They speak for a while where they learn that they both share a desire for freedom. Agreeing to work together, the two embark on their journey. Shortly after, the two find themselves in front of Lord Johnson Johnson, a cruel man that gathers unwanted mechas and throws them into the Flesh Fair, where mechas are destroyed for amusement. The Flesh Fair staff examine David. They discover that he is more sophisticated in design compared to any other mecha and suggest that he not be destroyed. Unmoved, Johnson Johnson grabs David and drags him to the destruction ring. David cries out in fear as if he is a real boy when several buckets of acid are about to be dropped on him. The crowd feels that realness in David's fear, and they revolt against Johnson Johnson. A riot breaks out, allowing David and Joe to escape. Once they escape, David reveals his search for the Blue Fairy. Joe is certain that they will locate her in Rouge City, a hotspot for adult entertainment that rivals Las Vegas and Disneyland. They arrive to Rouge City, but the Blue Fairy is nowhere to be found. All they find is a city filled with temptations and secrets. Within the city, they eventually arrive at a location where Dr. No, a smart computer version of Einstein, informs them that the blue fairy can be found at the end of the world where the lions weep. Joe explains to David that Dr. No must be referring to Manhattan, as many mechas have traveled to the end of the world and never returned. David supports visiting Manhattan despite the risks of death. Joe tries to dissuade him by warning that it might be a trap. As David and Joe leave the building, Joe is arrested by police for murder. David acts quickly and seizes the controls of an amphibicopter that is sitting nearby and successfully frees Joe from the officer's grasp. Joe enters and takes control of the vehicle, leading the group to Manhattan. As they pull closer to Manhattan, all they see is a flood-stricken New York City, where they discover the Cybertronics building and lion statues oozing water. David walks into a room and sees another robot that looks just like him. In a jealous rage, David destroys it because he believes it may be plotting to steal his mother from him. At that point, Professor Hobby makes himself known and informs David that he led him home using Dr. No and that the Blue Fairy was merely a myth. David is broken as his whole mission was to find the Blue Fairy to become a real boy. David is left alone while Professor Hobby goes in search of the team members who created him. David looks around Hobby's workspace, discovering the various mechanical components that were used for his creation, as well as fully boxed David and Darlene units available for purchase by the general public. David's feelings are made worse by their presence because he realizes that he can never be a real boy and get back to his mother, Monica. With no other option, David goes out by the water to end his life. He takes a step forward, his body trembling with a mixture of fear and resignation, as he prepares to plunge into the icy abyss that mirrors the depths of his sorrow. However, just as he is about to surrender to the sea's icy embrace, Gigolo Joe arrives in the nick of time and snatches David from the cliff. He tells David that the Blue Fairy is surely down below. As they are about to go and find the Blue Fairy, Joe is captured by an amphibicopter before he can assist David. Joe then creates a diversion so David can dive beneath the surface. David luckily escapes, but at the cost of Joe's freedom. David continues to push to find the Blue Fairy. He finds a submerged area, the eerie remains of the Coney Island amusement park. David goes to the park's fairy tale land, where he discovers a statue of the Blue Fairy in a Pinocchio-themed area. David then starts to pray to her in an effort to transform into a real boy. However, the water is too treacherous, and David slowly fades away into his death. 2,000 years have passed, humans have disappeared, and the world is covered in ice. However, the mechas have evolved into specialists. These specialists are so advanced, but they lack the history of how they came to be. Some of these advanced mechas are breaking through the ice in an effort to find and study the remains of the civilization and species that gave rise to them. They discover David and Teddy frozen in an amphibicopter. As the future mecha extract the two, they sift through Teddy's and David's memories. They are astounded to see that Teddy had previously coexisted with humans. They create a plan to ease David into reality by forming a made-up reality of the Swintons' house and a being resembling the Blue Fairy. Just as he did before, David wishes he could be a real boy and see Monica again. The Blue Fairy explains that she is unable to make him real and that Monica has actually been dead for a very long time. 2,000 years have passed since he last saw her. However, David is told by the Blue Fairy that they can bring back other humans, but David is only interested in bringing back Monica. David hands over the hair he cut from Monica's head and insists the Blue Fairy resurrect Monica now. David is taken to his room after the Blue Fairy confirms that she has the power to make this happen. After some time, one of the future mechas approaches David to discuss his wish to bring Monica back to life. The mecha explains that human resurrections in the past have proven to be non-permanent, with resurrected people living for only one day. David doesn't care at all. He desires a second meeting with Monica no matter the circumstances. The future mechas grant his request, and the resurrected Monica, David, and Teddy spend an entire day together doing a variety of activities. When it is finally time for them to go to sleep, the resurrected Monica says that she loves David. With this knowledge, David finally falls asleep, content and happy. In the end, David's love for Monica brought her back, and his faith to see her came through.